know where people find from. I don't know where Rock found us from.
It doesn't matter.
He found us. That's
he
all
did
that
find
matters.
Us. That's all that
but
matters.
He's a very interesting guy. I mean, come to find out, he was once the host of a cable access show, and he sent me some clips of it. It was very, very interesting. It really was. I told him to look up a show called TV Party because it reminded
with
me
Glenn O'Brien
with Glenn O'Brien
and young Debbie Harry.
Yeah, it reminded me of TV Party. I said, and or Wayne's World. He said they were actually called the original Wayne's World back then. But he had long hair, rocker hair, all the way down to his waist, and he played the electric guitar there live on the show, and did commentary and stuff, and it was really wild stuff. I mean, I didn't know that about him, but you're thumping the mic or something there, or maybe that was that shape-shifting deal. But he is a columnist, and he asked if he could do an article on CRAGG, and of course, I mean, we were extremely honored, so we turned around and gave him some of the audio of the interviews that we did with Jeff Beeching for the Old Kitchen Sink Radio, and also updated him on some stuff, things changed this and that. And he wrote this very, very nice article that we put up on Facebook. I know a lot of people like Pickles not on Facebook and didn't get a chance to read it, so we thought we'd share this with you. It's about a spec. It's called CRAGG, and it's also a little bit about Rock, his life too. It's called CRAGG by the poet. He don't know about. No, he probably doesn't know it. I know it. He's like the brother of Edgar Allan Poe. That's a really big fucking build-up.
That is a build-up. Yes. That is a very large build-up.
Ron Swindle.
Here we go. It says... maybe.
Okay. No, he didn't write that.
All right. I have written frequently about my long-distance friendship with legendary California guitarist Davey Allen. His work in chopper films from the 1960s has remained notable ever since those hedonistic days of yore. It has been my privilege to review his work in print, write letters lobbying on his behalf, and even provide liner notes for his recordings. My genuine affinity for Davey's music began when I bought a copy of the Devil's Angels movie soundtrack while going to high school in the Pittsburgh area. Like many music fans, I was familiar with his blues theme 45, but I knew little else about his recorded history. My favorite radio station, WYDD-FM, was a hippie, was a hippie inspiration, one of the genuine free-form broadcasters that sought to buck the corporate trend of regular broadcasting. But they offered little of Davey's work. My vinyl artifact, only about 10 years old at that time, began to open the door. I could not have imagined where that path would lead. Davey and I became connected after I added a personal note of thanks to an order of CDs through his website during the 1990s. A modern bonus from my association with Davey arrived recently when he was interviewed by Terry and Tiffany DuFoe, the creators of Cult Radio Go-Go, which is available via the internet. I found a podcast link and enjoyed their conversation with Davey, but because I was unfamiliar with the CRAGG creations, it seemed appropriate to investigate further. A bit of reading revealed that their live stream and archives were available on my Roku box, in addition to other platforms. I downloaded their channels immediately, CRAGG TV, or CTAG for all of our listeners, and CRAGG Radio. And then came an epiphany of sorts, all the way from California to the heartland of Ohio. Another frequent subject for this writer has been the odd expertise of my late friend Paul Race Jr. from Corning, New York. His status as a veteran of Cornell University, collector, musician, illustrator, and antisocial iconoclast were unmatched by anyone I have known. The universe of CRAGG literally hit all these buttons with precision. It was as if my old friend had been reincarnated in these kindred souls. I clicked through a list of interview subjects that had appeared on their live program, and it was an impressive roster of post-war pop culture, which included Rob Zombie, musician, George Romero, film director, Elvira, horror host, Robert Englund, actor, Billy Crash Craddock, heroic country performer, Samuel Z. Arkoff, film mogul, Gilbert Gottfried, comedian, Rhonda Shear of Up All Night fame, Orion, Elvis impersonator, Del Shannon, 60s icon, June Lockhart, TV mom, Arch Hall Jr., movie cult hero and musician, Vincent Price, hero of all. I corresponded with Tiffany via social media and learned that they were fans of Dark Shadows, which was another of the influences that helped create my own consciousness as a wordsmith. Her live stream of their household collection looked much like my own, populated with relics of Coca-Cola, Rock Rebellion, and Golden Age television. For people that I had never met on the other side of America, they seemed undeniably familiar and alike. Eventually, I messaged her with this conclusion, quote, "Your mix of songs and material is truly amazing. I never know what to expect. It is almost like I took an acid trip and had my life played back record by record, something like Rock and Roll Confidential by Penny Stallings." Continued research revealed that Terry and Tiffany originated their streamcasts from an abandoned drive-in theater from 6 to 10 p.m. Pacific on Saturday nights. A father-daughter team of great consequence. Included were Wicked Kitty and Fritz, the studio cats, along with Cragg, the drive-in gargoyle. Their encyclopedic knowledge of all things from the baby boom era seems to be unlimited in scope. Terry was a disc jockey on AM and FM radio, while Tiffany was a prodigious child who reportedly saw her first John Waters film at the age of 10. I was in awe. This connection left me spellbound, and I could not tune away. For weeks afterward, Cragg was on my Roku whenever I was at home. An old adage says, "Content is king." This truism echoed over and over as I listened to Tiny Tim singing "I Love Rock and Roll," followed by a show excerpt from Hazel, followed by a promo bit for X-1 from NBC Radio in the 1950s, a series which included scripts written by Isaac Asimov, Ray Bradbury, Robert A. Heinlein, and Philip K. Dick. DuFoe and DuFoe seemed to tap directly into the zeitgeist of pop culture that would eventually come to bear fruit in the punk revolution of the 1970s, and in countless B-movies offered to the masses with themes of teenage rebellion, horror, choppers, and hot rods. An overgrown kid from Ohio, their stream of consciousness was irresistible. I listened to an episode of Kitchen Sink Radio from 2011 where Tiffany was interviewed, and she seemed very much like part of the family. Her father, like one of our crew at WTCC WCIC Channel 13 in Ithaca, New York, when I worked there in the 1970s. People well versed in the genres of garage band rock, low buck, sci-fi, and B-movie abandon, originally, like me, from the heartland. One quote in particular caught my attention. She spoke about Terry's desire to broaden the scope of terrestrial radio. Quote, "He had an idea back in the late 70s of doing a radio station. He actually pitched this idea to AM/FM in Illinois, where we're from, that he wanted to do a freeform radio station that could literally be a hodgepodge of everything, that somebody who is very eclectic could listen to it, and one time, hear a Buck Owens song, and then the next hear a Ramones song. And I guess it was just before its time. It didn't end up coming to fruition." Once again, I was back at my vintage RCA with the tone of the Golden Throat listening to WYDD in Pittsburgh. I had been inspired by the station to think of radio as an educational tool. My hope was to provide a varied tonal palette in the spirit of our family record collection, one that dependably offered vintage recordings of blues, country, and western, gospel, folk, and early rock and roll. But my attempts to swing an apprenticeship at local stations in New York through Cornell University yielded nothing but frustration at the commerce-driven industry. With a detour to local television, I encountered an on-air cohort, David Bly, a librarian by profession and a faithful disciple of popular music. His notion that broadcast should inform and uplift listeners was in sync with my own. What followed was an undisciplined stream of art and energy. Cragg brought these echoes of yonder days to a logical conclusion. It gave me a renewed sense of focus. Another vibe from the realm of bygone culture came as I tuned into CRAGG TV and saw that they were offering a replay of the John Haynes classic Grave of the Vampire. I recalled seeing it on the WYNEW late night movie while I was studying at Cornell. Beyond pushing the reasonable limits of a cinematic feature to convey shock and entertainment, the film also offered William Smith, Chopper film hero, in a starring role. More than spellbound, I was caught in a time warp between my youth and the harsh light of modernity. I sent Tiffany YouTube links to video clips from my New York television show. It was the first time since my friend Paul passed away in 2014 that I felt truly excited about reviving those memories. I reckon that she and Terry would understand our cause and share in continuing the journey.
It was very good, too. I really enjoyed it. It was very, like I said, TV party. I don't know if Rod's ever got a chance to see that yet, but definitely Wayne's World. And there's been a few articles written about us. I think he pretty much summed it all up better than anybody. Would you say?
I would say so.
Appreciate that. He's been here, there, and everywhere. I mean, he's lived a very rich and full life. I mean, he's paid his dues. Even at one time, it's okay to say this because he said it himself on Facebook, lived under a bridge and was homeless for a while. And I'm glad that's not the case right now. because you can't get CRAGG under a bridge. No electricity, but yeah, and definitely one of us. And that's what I appreciate. I don't appreciate listeners that are there for other reasons. I appreciate listeners that are there because they get what we do.
Right.
And because they're like-minded like us. And that's definitely him. Okay, we speak to somebody that understands what we speak and how we talk, and that's what it's all about.
Okay.
And tonight we are doing parody stuff, not with the April Fool's kind of fair. We talked about if Noah really